floor, put it in smoothing group number 2. Smoothing groups match up there. And there we go. We have built our first level. Still a lot more to be done. Next, we're going to texture said level. So select everything. You can select by element. Selecting by element will select the polygons you've selected and everything connected to them. So if there are any breaks in the mesh, it will only select that individual element. And we're going to set everything to material 1 for now. As we only have one node in our scene, it's all we need to have selected. Go into the material editor and click Assign Material to Selection. As you can see, it just turned everything into grass, which is not quite what we want. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to add some texture coordinates to everything. Usually when I'm starting off, I default my mappings to by face. As you can see, this sort of just quickly maps everything onto a square, which, since we built our level out of squares, is passable for now. Collapse that. And now we need to start assigning texture IDs to things. So since the floor is grass, we will generally want to select everything that is not part of the floor and change its texture ID to tiles. Again, turn your wireframes on so you can see what you're picking. More tiles. Of course, you always need to watch your selection to make sure that you're not texturing the wrong things. Believe me, there's nothing more frustrating than doing an hour's worth of work only to realize you applied some of it to half of the level and you really didn't want to apply it to that half of the level. Major pain in the ass. Selecting the floor is just as easy as it was before. Do the same thing, and then with this one, what we're going to want to do, since it's already textured properly, for the most part, is we'll just go into UVW mapping and play with the gizmo a little bit. Scale everything. Scale everything properly. And we can start putting in our trim texture now too, even though we're not done with everything. And of course, because you're building your level sideways, the trim texture will never line up the way you want it to. So what we do is what I did before. We add our unwrap modifier. And we just select everything and rotate it 90 degrees. And as you can see, it still doesn't work right then, but we can flip it, and sure enough, our trim texture was applied correctly to half of the faces. Recollapse to editable poly, select the faces that weren't done properly, rinse and repeat. Wrong modifier. Wrong modifier again. You'll notice that happens when you get used to working really quickly and not paying attention to what you click on. It happens. This is why we make backups and save often. Again, your textures will tile properly if you sort of stack them instead of apply a face mapping to them. But a face mapping is much easier and faster, so it's what you'll want to default to. However, the final product looks better if you stack them properly. But of course, that's subject matter for a different time. And of course, we're going to have an issue down here in the corner with our trim because our topology doesn't really allow for it that well. But no big deal, we'll get to that. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it. Sometimes you'll notice that the textures are squished horizontally. Just scale them to twice their normal size to make up for the difference, or maybe not in that case. In this case, what we'll actually want to do is we'll go through our texture list, line it up properly, and we'll move these vertices closer to the top so that it tiles a little bit better, hopefully. There really isn't much you can do for this texture anyways on such a small mapping plane. Not to mention I have it upside down. Yeah, that would make it not quite look right. There we go. Again, unwrapping is sort of a lost art. No one knows how to do it properly, except for the fine folks over at Polycount. And I'm going to cut out here to save some recording time, but you get the idea. Just keep texturing the level until you're done with it.